This video is intended as a general overview of the Price Rooftop Unit Controller system and how it will lay out in a building. The components of the system include the PRTU main controller, the PRTU thermostat, piece of DIN rail for mounting, and also in the box will be a control screwdriver and a USB drive containing all the manuals as well as some training videos. If you also have the PRTU front end system with its web server graphics, you'll have additional components which we'll get to later. This is the layout of a typical system which you might see. You've got a packaged rooftop unit which is controlled by the PRTU, and that in turn feeds VAV boxes with a PIC or Price Intelligent Controller or Prodigy Smart Diffusion units. Finally, you will also have some sort of pressure control for your system, be it a bypass controller with a PIC pressure controller or VFD built into the rooftop. Wiring to the rooftop between the PRTU uses standard 24 VAC connections. So these would be your G, Y1, Y2, W1, W2 for a standard package rooftop. Typically the PRTU and its thermostat is powered off of the 24 volt connection from the rooftop unit itself. On the left hand side here you will see the two inputs. AI1 shall always be connected to the discharge air temperature probe, and this should be mounted in the duct downstream of the unit. That's the rooftop unit. The return air temperature probe, which monitors return air to the unit, is always connected to AI2. Your last connections are the Cat5 cable to the thermostat, that's the PRTU thermostat, and that should be mounted in a common area such as a hallway. And finally your backnet connection, which gets connected to your PIC controllers typically. Each PRTU can control one packaged rooftop unit. If you have multiple units, each of them in turn will need their own PRTU controller, its thermostat, and network. For instance, if you have 3 rooftop units, you will need 3 PRTU controllers, and these here are the Price Intelligent Controllers, or PICs, which are controlling the VAV boxes. You'll notice they are networked to the main controller using the backnet connection, and neither of these networks are connected together. They do also have to follow a specific addressing scheme, and this is laid out in the manual as well as the setup wizard in the thermostat. With the front end system, basically we have 2 packages or components of the system. First of all is the webmaster package, and this is the package that you need for the first PRTU in the system. What that consists of is this PRTU web, which is the main web server. There is a backnet router as well as an IP router, and this is used to isolate our system from the main IT system of the building this is being installed in. The web additional package is used for additional systems. If you have, as in the previous example, 3 systems, the first system will have this webmaster package, the other 2 will have these web additionals, which are just additional backnet routers. The other component is this IP switch, and I'll show you that in a second. So typical layout is you have your first PRTU networked to its PIC zone controllers, and that is connected to the webmaster package. So the first connection will be a backnet connection from the PRTU to that backnet router. From there, we can connect that backnet router using IP or Ethernet cables into the IP router. Also connected to that IP router on the LAN side is the web server. For additional systems, we have 2 more systems here. Each of these will have their own backnet routers, and those will also be connected into the LAN parts. Finally, if you have more systems than will fit in this IP router, this is where that IP switch comes in. That is an additional component that will be installed next to the IP router, and it is used to expand your ports on your LAN side of your switch. So the switch itself is now connected to this last LAN port. Your third network, or third PRTU, is connected to your switch, and now your 4th system connected to your switch. And these can be daisy chained along for the rest of your building. For connection to the main network of your building, basically the only connection here is this one WAN, or wide area network connection, to the building LAN. And this is the one thing you need to work with your IT department for, to get a static IP address and some additional information to set this up. The next portion of this video will show you how to set up the IP router for connection connection to the building LAN. So first of all, with the IP router, you'll have received this IT request and information sheet. And this sheet is to be filled out by the IT department with all the information you require. First of all, they will have to assign you a static IP on their LAN. They will also have to give you the subnet mask, gateway, and DNS servers for that connection. Also, you'll need an SMTP server if you want to set up email alerts. Finally, to enable the remote monitoring functionality, they will have to give you the public IP or external IP for the building, as well as forward a port to that static IP they just set. That port can be any of their choosing. However, we suggest port 8651 since it is not used, not within any of the reserved ranges. So once they give you that information, you can go into your IP router and set that up. First things first is how to get into the IP router. Basically, if you just take your laptop, you can connect into one of these LAN ports of that IP router, and that will give you a nice basis to get into that router and set up your settings. So in this example, I have done that. I'm going to open my web browser and go to the address printed on that IP router itself. So if you look at that IP router, the number or the IP address printed on there will be 192.168.97.1. And the first thing it's going to ask you for is the username and password. And for the IP router, the username is admin, and the password is admin. And the only thing you have to set up is this WAN setup here. Everything else has all been pre-set up for you at the factory. So the connection type you're going to choose is the static IP, and here's where you'll enter that information that the IT department gave you. For example, my IT form that they gave me the following IP address: 172.16.6.174. And that will typically be in the 172.16 or 192.168 range. The subnet mask for this connection is 255.255.252.0, and my gateway in this instance is 172.16.4.1. They also gave me DNS addresses of 172.16.4.20. The other two DNS addresses are optional. Once you've entered this information, scroll down to the Save button and press it. At this time, the router will be applying these settings and rebooting, and we have to wait 30 seconds before we can go back into it and verify our settings. Alright, it's been 30 seconds. We'll click on this link to go back into the unit, and we'll make sure that our IP addresses that we set are still in there. So 172.16.6.174, the subnet mask, the gateway, and the DNS servers are all correct. So at this point, we are done with the setup of this unit, and you can actually plug your laptop into the main building LAN and test that by going to the address of 172.16.6.174, and you'll be able to access the web server.